Well, hello, world, and welcome to the Crisis Victory Show. Today, I have a very interesting guest that I've been excited to share with you all for some time. She's a relative of mine, second cousin, and her name is Tammy Davis. And my cousin Tammy has a very interesting journey that led her into a beautiful ministry, and I'm so excited to share that today. But first, I'd like to make mention of Pete Turner, my co-host, and also the founder and senior host of the Break It Down show. Pete, say hi to everybody. Pete,
hi,
there you
hi
go.
Everybody. Yeah, thanks
Okay.
Thanks for mentioning me. I'll get out of your way.
All right, brother. Have a good day. Okay, so Tammy, this is this journey that you've been through, the struggles over the years. I've been watching you on Facebook, and although you and I haven't been in touch as family members since forever, it's just so wonderful to see the progression of what you came out of, what you survived, what you went through, and what you turned and blossomed it into today that benefits so many struggling people. So without further ado, audience, this is Tammy Davis. And Tammy, I'd love for you to start kind of at the beginning when you first started having struggles develop in your life and what caused that.
Okay. Well, my mother and father, I have 3 siblings, an older sister and an older brother. And then I had a Down syndrome brother that was 3 years younger than me that more or less kind of was my child than my brother. But my mom moved out when I was 16. And so that's when my addiction started. Well, I experimented a little bit before she left, and I got in trouble at school for drinking. And I was already experimenting with marijuana and pills. They called them black beauties, Christmas trees, cross tops, all that. I would spend my lunch money on that because so right off the bat, when I tried anything that was altering my mind, I loved it. It made me fit in, or so I thought. I always had a fear that I just didn't belong with people. So I always needed to medicate myself however I saw fit to fit into any situation. So when my mom left, it was my dad and my younger brother and I, and the drinking was an everyday thing. I would drink before I'd go to school. I would come home at lunch and prepare my father lunch and drink on my lunch break, and then go back to school before my dad came home for lunch so that he wouldn't know I was drinking. Yeah. And then I got in trouble. As I said, in my freshman year, I got in trouble for drinking at school. When I was 18, I got a minor in possession out at the Camino Island State Park. And there was never really any consequences. So it was, my dad went to court with me on that one, and they dismissed it. And my dad took me shopping and bought me a new outfit. So, there was never any consequences for making bad decisions. So it was like the little slap on the hand, and I didn't really see anything wrong with it. It was all like I got rewarded for it. And both of my parents were alcoholics as well. Lots of fighting and, just different disputes while we were growing up. So lots of problems growing up. So when I was 18, by the time I was 18, I was a full-blown alcoholic. But wow. It was a joke. It was like a joke then. It was like, I'm an alcoholic, let's drink. And I got in a few wrecks, just me like running off the road or whatever, never any other cars involved. But I got my first DUI when I was 23 years old. And from the first one, I got 4 in 13 months. And there was never any consequences, maybe a day in jail or a deferred prosecution or anything like that. Yeah. And to back up a little bit, I started using cocaine when I was 18 years old. My first husband introduced me to cocaine, and I ran with that. I was addicted instantly to that. And he was taking me into bars before I was 21. And I loved the spotlight because I was the youngest one there and just the life of the party. And I thought it was just all fun and games,
and very impressionable at that age.
Oh yeah. I just loved being in the bars and stuff. When I was 18, my friends from high school, they were all going to college and not me. I was doing drugs and drinking daily and in the bars. That was what I wanted. That's what my life was. And the marriage was abusive. It didn't last long. We went out for 2 years and then we got married, and it only lasted like 4 months.
Wow.
And then the guy, because he was always in the bar, but by then, I couldn't go into the bars to get him because I wasn't old enough. And so there'd be fights. I'd tell the bartender to come outside so I could whoop her butt, and because she'd lie and say he wasn't there when he was. And it was just so much drama and insanity. That's the only way to describe it, is insanity. And he got me on every kind of drug you could think of. I mean, his friends came from Utah and they brought these those little 35 millimeter canisters that had film in them, and every single one of them had a different drug in it.
Wow.
And I didn't work at the time, so I would stay home and get loaded or deliver drugs to them while they were all working and stuff. And it was just, I think about it now and it's insane to even talk about it because it was just so crazy back then. But and then so we split up, and then I got with a guy that introduced me to smoking crack, and then it was a whole nother ball game there. And that's when I started getting a lot of DUIs and driving on suspended, in and out of jail. I entered my first treatment center, I believe it was in like 1990, after I had rolled my car. That was that fourth DUI in 13 months, and I rolled my car here in Stanwood, and that's the first time I went to treatment because I couldn't do anything without alcohol. I drank before work. Yeah. I drank before church. I drank all the time. And so I went to treatment and I stayed sober, I think just a few months when I got out. But, I didn't change my surroundings. I didn't do what was suggested when you do get sober. I mean, they suggest you get a sponsor, they work the steps, go to meetings and don't drink in between. Of course, I didn't want to give up everything. I wasn't ready to surrender.
I'd like to cut in right now. I'd like to cut in here, Tammy, because this is a really important point. As you know, I have a doctorate in pastoral counseling. I've been a doctor for 22 years. I work with substance abuse survivors. I work with rape victims. I work with people that have been overdose cases. I work with so much of that type of thing. And the one pattern that I see, and this is the pattern you're bringing up right now, is the recognition of going back into something that is not only familiar, but even though it's abusive, it becomes comfortable because it's something that you know and understand. The drinking as a child with around your father who was an alcoholic, marrying somebody that was abusive on drugs and alcohol, leaving that marriage and entering yet another marriage. And the reason that I have seen over the years of working with people who struggle in this, Tammy, is because it's something that's familiar. And anything that is familiar, even if it's abusive to us, it becomes comfortable in a distorted fashion. So this is so important that you're sharing that today, and I just love this. And please continue on. But I did want to bring attention to the fact that this is the pattern and the process that we seek out of people that we can show, and later how you succeed from it.
Right. So, yeah, that's exactly what it was, Doctor, is that I grew up around that. My parents were drinking and abusive towards each other. Right. And so, I mean, I think back to my childhood and, we had an old car that we would drive around the field out here when I was like 10 years old. And I would be driving around with a bottle of root beer that looked like a Rainier beer and a candy cigarette in my hand. And I was pretending to be my parents at 10 years old. And go figure, I turned out just like them. I never did pick up the cigarettes, but everything but the cigarettes. So, it was comfortable, exactly like you said. It was comfortable for me, and it was all I knew. And, I think about it now, and I probably should have done some kind of counseling when my mom left, because I kind of blamed maybe it was my fault, or I don't know, but I was always the peacemaker. When there would be fights and stuff, I'd be the one trying to keep the peace. Everybody has their own there's the scapegoat and all those different positions, but I was definitely the one wanting to keep the peace in the family. And
children take on that role pretty frequently when I've dealt in the past with substance abuse related relationships like you're describing right now. They become the peacemaker. They become the one that carries the burden of guilt. They always end up in that point of thinking, what did I do to cause the breakup or the dissolution of my family? When in reality, as you've gotten older, of course, that's totally untrue. People make their own choices. And as a result of that, people are victimized around them and closest to them as a result of the choices. So very interesting that you're identifying with that right now.
So, Yeah, so I mean, the boyfriend that I got with after the husband, we never got married. We were together for 8 years, and then we just kind of parted because my drinking was just out of control. I mean, I was all over the place. I was usually working at bars so that I could drink on the job, and it wouldn't be noticed because the smell would fit right in with the bar smell. So, and I've always been in abusive relationships, always, until I got with my now husband. But that was normal to me. I mean, I thought that because I watched my parents doing it. So I thought that was just the way things go. It wasn't until now that I realized that that's unacceptable. I got in, well, let's see. Okay. So I got several DUIs throughout my life ending. I got one in 2019 and one in 2020. I got them 5 months apart. And that's when everything stopped. Back up a little bit. My dad died in 2013, so I was sole provider for my brother. And my other siblings, whom my dad adopted when they were 2 and 1, caused a lot of problems. They were turning me into adult protective services every couple of weeks, saying that I was abusing my brother, stealing his money, exploiting him, all of this, which, I mean, it just shows their ignorance that I was my brother's rep payee for Social Security for ever since I can remember. And anybody that is in that position knows that you need to prove where the person's money is going to. So
exactly.
There was no way I was stealing his money or exploiting him or beating him up or anything like that. So they caused a lot of stress and anxiety in our lives. But you know what? My dad warned me before he died. He died 5 days before he was supposed to have his heart surgery. He told me that he wasn't going to make it, and he made sure I knew where the will was. And he told me that my siblings were going to get really ugly with me. And boy, he wasn't kidding. He already saw the writing on the wall. But things got really bad. And I just, like I say, the addiction has just been there nonstop because I wanted to numb all the time. I didn't want to feel because there was just too much pain involved. Well, when I got
that's very common. That's very common. People are going through that kind of a.
And I mean, and there was also some opioids. I've always been on opioids for different reasons, but I never abused them. My thing was just really, I liked the crack and I loved the alcohol. I had a beer with me at all times. And I usually opened one before I even left the parking lot of the store. And when I went to court, because I got the 2 back-to-back DUIs, the second one, the last one was number 8. And there was actually more than that, but they got thrown out because they didn't catch me behind the wheel of the car. Or I've actually done 2 deferred prosecutions, which nowadays they only allow you to do 1, I believe. But I mean, this was so long ago, things were a lot different. But the most time I ever did in jail was like 4 months, and it was usually work release. So I was going out every day. So there was really never any consequences for my behavior. So it was like a little slap on the wrist. I knew how to get through the system because I'd done it so many times. I knew exactly what the judge wanted to hear. So the minute I'd get in trouble, I'd hurry up and get into an outpatient program and get an assessment going and all this just to prove to the judge. And then it looked like I was doing everything right. But it was a mask I had on, It looked like I was doing everything right is the key word, because I certainly wasn't. It was just lies, all the lies. And I got sober on, I got my last DUI on January 30th of 2020, but I made my clean date February 1st because I knew that I was probably still toxic on the 31st and I was still in jail.
I like that. That's recognition. That's the beginning foundation of recovery, is to be able to identify that this is my point. This is my starting point to starting that new day, that new life that's going to begin. You finally had enough of it.
I did, and when I went to court, I had 10 months sober, and the judge says, well, Tammy, you've been sober for 15 years. And I said, no, I haven't, Your Honor. I've been under the radar for 15 years. I've been drinking and driving every single day, usually opening one before I even left the parking lot of the store. And because I was honest when I went in there, and my brother died a week before I had to go to sentencing, and it was unexpected. So I pleaded with the judge to let me do something like work release or something so that I wouldn't lose my home. But I had to go do 98 days. And I'm a firm believer in Jesus Christ. And God is who rescued me from that life of insanity. A lot of other people, talk about how we call our higher power God. There's other people that don't, and that's okay. I respect anybody's beliefs. That's on them. But I grew up in the church. And then I became a member as an adult at my same church where I got confirmed as a youth. And I know God is who's saved me from myself and from all of these terrible things that I've been through. But when I went to go to jail, two different things. One is I had a very powerful dream that was very real, that I killed somebody with my car. And so I thought, I can't drink again, because I love everybody. And I'm very sociable. And the thought of hurting somebody, killing somebody, I can't live with that. And then also I was right next to a girl that was in there for murdering her fiance while she was drunk. So I had to look at her being so angry at the world and trying to pick fights with me every day. And it was like, you're not gonna push me to get a new charge. I know when I'm going home, and you can say whatever you want to me, but I'm not going to do this. And, I tried kind of taking her under my wing, and I'll tell you what, doctor, that by the time I got out of jail, she was going to AA meetings and she was going to church in the jail.
I love that.
So something worked. I mean, because, that's the only thing that got me through that time, was reading my Bible every day, multiple times, and praying. And every night before I'd go to sleep, I would vision myself putting all my burdens at the Lord's feet. And you know what? I slept like a baby in there every night without any kind of sleep medication. So,
I've got to share something with you at this point.
Sure.
I've got to share this. Mine came in jail too. I remember it was October of 1994 at 3:30 in the afternoon. And I had just been sentenced to 8 years in federal prison, taken back to a holding cell, waiting to catch my Conair flight. And I remember I just couldn't take any more of it, Tammy. And I dropped down on my knees and I looked up to the heavens through that cell. And I said, God, please help me get through this. And right in that instant, an inmate walked in on one side of me, knelt, put a hand on my shoulder, and started praying. Within seconds, another inmate walked in on the other side of me and put a hand. Oh my God. And I felt the change. I felt all the anger, all of the evil, everything in me. It just vanished instantly. And then a hunger arose to learn about what the heck is it that just changed me so radically. Mm-hmm. So during the next few years while I was in prison, I entered seminary studies through a pastor that we had coming in from a non-denominational church. And my job in prison where I was at was as I was trained to hospice counsel dying prisoners and taking them through the dying process. So all of my studies in 2.5 years to get my original ordination was done in the death rooms of a federal prison. And I would be holding the hand of a man as he's dying, reading scripture. And it got deeper and deeper. And when I was formally ordained in the prison, they came in and did the ceremony. And I remember really famous mobsters, gangsters out in the yard knew that this was very real with Hal Bradley. And so they threw a big feast in my honor because I wasn't some Bible thumper hiding from it. And it just, I was in newspaper articles, on TV. I mean, it just exploded, this ministry, and changed. So what I'm saying is this, Tammy, here you are in a jail cell with an overly active and aggressive person. And look at what happened. God put you there for a specific purpose. And I believe it was for a confirmation, not only for you, but to help transform yet another and save another, which is so cool because I know your journey today. And I look at that with just pride, and just hearing what you just shared there with me really touched my heart, something I could relate to. And the reason I shared my couple minutes there is because others like myself, like yourself, will relate to that. We've been there. We've done that. We know that moment of conversion. So go ahead. I just had to share that.
No, it's okay. I appreciate that. So when I need to back up a little bit. Forgive me. I've never spoke publicly like this other than at an AA meeting or an NA meeting. So I'm kind of all over the place because I don't really know how to do this. But so I left my husband back in 1994 or 93 is when I met Jerry, who I'm married to now. We've been together 31 years. And I was actually coming home from a job that I was doing like a live-in position. I've been a nurse's aide for 40 years. And in 93, I was an in-home caregiver for a lady with MS. And the guy that I had played with since I was 16 years old rolled his truck out in Savannah and burned up in it. And so that was kind of the love of my life. And so after that, I just stayed drunk. I came home for his funeral and went to a bar with my sister and her boyfriend. And that's where I met Jerry and his brother and his friend. And we've been together ever since. But we both have been in jails at the same time. We've been in treatments, and now since 2020, when I got sober, Jerry got sober 3 weeks after me. So we both just celebrated in February 5 years sober, and this is the first time we've ever been sober together. Jerry's been an alcoholic since he was probably like 15, and me, of course, at least since 18, but probably even before that, if the truth be known. But I left Jerry back in like 2018. Saying that he was drinking too much, when obviously I was too. And I left for a guy that used to sell me drugs when I was 18 years old, sold me cocaine from Arlington. And I got with him. And this is when my life really spiraled out of control. Lots of domestic violence, verbal, physical, emotional. I didn't even know what a narcissist was. My sponsor at the time had told me, you might want to get some books from Amazon about narcissists because I think this guy's a narcissist. And so I did. I got one of the books and I opened it up, and the very first paragraph was him to a T. And I closed that book because I thought I was going to throw up. And it was like, oh my gosh, there's really a human being out here that would purposely go out and set out a certain kind of person and then hurt them. I couldn't comprehend it because, I've always just tried to look at the good in people, and I've tried to always be good to people, and to know that there's evil out there like that, I couldn't comprehend it. But when I went to go to jail, they said, you can bring 3 books with you. 2 of them have to stay here as the property of the jail, and 1 can go back home with you. So I brought my Celebrate Recovery Bible with me so that I could have the Bible and the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous all in one book. And then I brought those 2 books on narcissist. And I'll tell you what, doctor, is that first 24 hours I was in that first cell before I got put into a pod with other women. The guard came to check on me, and I told her, it's a good thing I'm in here right now. And she said, why? And I said, because I would probably effing kill that guy. Because I said, I can't believe he did this stuff to me, because I read both of those books in one day, and I'm not much of a reader. And it was him to a T. It was him to a T. But, I prayed before I went into jail and asked God to use me for his good in there, and to show me anything I needed to learn so that I could stay on this right path, because this life of destruction has been my whole life. I mean, it's the only life I've ever known. I've never had any kind of boundaries in my whole life ever. And so for the first time in my life now, I'm setting up healthy boundaries, and I'm learning to say no instead of yes. I mean, when I want to say no, I say no now. I mean, it still hurts me because I always feel like guilt that I shouldn't be saying no to somebody, but I have to do it to protect my own peace.
It gets easier.
Huh?
It gets easier.
Yeah. And when I got, my probation officer said, after I got out of jail and everything, he says, you don't have to go to your probation review hearing. And I said, I need to go. And so I went in there, and by then I already had a year sober by then. And I had my coin with me that they give you when you go to AA, and you get a year sober. And I told the judge it was really important for me to come and see you, because my past judge was usually the same judge out of Arlington, and he's deceased. So I couldn't go make amends to him that I was lying to him all those years, when he was just giving me the slap on the hand and a little bit of work release and a little bit of a fine. And that was it, never really any consequences for my bad behavior. And I said, it was important for me to come back and show you that this time I'm not going to be a repeat offender. That revolving door isn't going to revolve anymore for me. I had the dream while I was in there. I was placed next to the person that scared the Jesus out of me. And it's just, I just don't want to be there anymore. And I don't want to hurt anybody with my words or my car. So sober is the best thing for me. I mean, I have my nice ignition interlock for another 4 more years, 4+ years, because I had to have it for 10 years. Because they say once you get 2 DUIs within 5 years, but I got 2 within 5 months. So, I had the 2 ankle bracelets at the same time. I got stopped by an officer one time in Marysville, and he's like, I just wanted to make sure you had your ignition interlock, and your SR22 insurance. And I'm like, yeah. I said, but it gets better than this. I said, can I open my door? And he said, sure. So I lifted up my pant legs, and I had an ankle bracelet on both ankles. I had one that was an alcohol detector and one was a home monitor. He goes, wow. He goes, I have never seen that.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, well, Doctor, I went to an AA meeting one time, and it was all gentlemen. And I said, it was so nice today. I wanted to wear my capris. I said, but I didn't want to freak you guys out. I said, I thought I lifted up my pant legs. I said, I didn't want you guys to think I was a suicide bomber because I lifted up both my pant legs and I had one on both ankles. But, it's a conversation piece now, but it taught me. I learned so much, and I'm still learning. I'm going to remain teachable. And I went to a women's meeting yesterday, and it was just absolutely wonderful because God just keeps putting these amazing people in my path, these people that I need to draw me closer to Him, to help people, with addiction or domestic violence, because the domestic violence thing got so out of control. He broke my restraining order 8 times. 6 times was from jail. And so he just got sentenced last month, and he's in prison now for 5 years for felony harassment. And then he'll have DOC for 5 years. But so now I'm really focusing on moving out of the house I've been in for 50 years that I grew up in, because I don't want him to know where I live. And the day after he got sentenced was a Saturday, and that was the first time I opened my curtains in 3 years.
Tammy, I'm so glad to hear that. And let me tell you something about making such a radicalized change. This is also part of the 2 things that I always tell people when I'm working with them in addiction or abusive relationships. 1, you have to change the environment. And 2, you have to change the people. And if you don't do either one of those things, you're just going to stay in that squirrel cage running around in the same circle.
Exactly.
So, as hard as it was to leave a home you've been in all your life, look at the benefit of the new life and the refreshing feeling of starting a new life.
Right. And this house is just
right. You're doing it right. You're doing it right.
Well, I'm trying. I mean, I just, I try to follow his lead instead of my own, because I know where mine gets me.
Proverbs 3, 5, and 6.
Right. And so it's just, like a week ago, I got a call from somebody in Pennsylvania, and I didn't really want to answer it because I thought it was another spam call. Here it was a girl that I had given my phone number to like 3 years ago, she said, at an AA meeting. And she was coming up to Camino, and needed someone to help get her to meeting. So her and I went to a women's meeting yesterday because she's in Washington now. And it was wonderful. Like, I don't remember meeting you, but this is just wonderful. And her love for Jesus, it's just, and God removed a toxic person I would have never left this relationship that I had like 4 weeks ago was the last time I talked to her. And it was so toxic in so many ways. And I would have never left because I don't abandon people. I've been abandoned. So I would never do that to somebody else. And I would have stuck with her, but it was dragging me down. It was adding to my anxiety and my depression and everything. And you know what? The very next day, I answered a request that somebody needed a ride down to Seattle for chemo. And I stepped up the plane and said, sure, I'll give her a ride. Now she's like my dearest friend. It was like a friend that I prayed for my whole life. She loves the Lord. She doesn't drink or drugs. She's got cancer, but she's just amazing. She's amazing. And God put the right person in my path at the right moment. And now it's just to wake up and feel that positiveness, or see a text from somebody saying, good morning, beautiful, or something like that. It's just, it's life changing.
Yeah. I'd like to cut in again, Tammy. Sure. This is what I want the audience to know. Tammy and I are Facebook friends besides family. And ladies and gentlemen, over the last few years, watching her Facebook channel transition, you see her name up there on the screen. If you're reaching out for someone like Tammy in your life, be sure to do that and make mention to her. Send her a message on her Facebook, because what she's doing now, what she's going to be getting into in the next few minutes, is absolutely amazing. It is one of the most incredible forms of ministry that there is out there, because not only do we feed people, Tammy, but we feed them love besides the food that we present. And I've been following you for some time now. It's how I got reacquainted with you in my life, which I'm grateful for. And these things are so significant, and you might not think it's such a big deal, but let me tell you, I'm not the only one on Facebook watching these changes and these transitions and this love that you're putting forward. And it's just amazing. And this is what happens with sobriety. We find our real self, and then what we do is manifest it through our face. and then we
Mhm.
share it. We pay it forward. We play it forward.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm anxious to kind of get into what you're doing with your life today, because what I've been monitoring these last few years, the transitioning, you didn't just try it for a short period of time and fall away from it. You know what you do in your post, and you show these wonderful meals, and you show this wonderful joy you get in your heart, giving and giving and giving.
Mhm.
And Tammy, please talk about that. I'd like to know what kicked you into that ministry.
Okay, so as I said, I'm a nurse's aide of 40 years, and back in 2014, I was working at an adult family home in Marysville, and a resident crushed my foot when I was transferring her from a wheelchair to a bed. So I haven't been able to work since then, and I suffer a great deal now of depression because of not being able to take care of other people. So I've always taken care of everybody. I love to cook. I love to deliver food because I love to drive, and I don't know how to cook for two people, and that's all we have here. So it's like, I've never wasted any food. We were just brought up that you don't waste not, want not, and take what you want and eat what you take. I mean, just little things my parents said. And so, and we were pretty much poverty level. I mean, we were kind of spoiled, but I mean, we didn't live beyond our means. And so to fill that void, I have taken stuff down to Oregon. I met another guy on Facebook, and he liked something I made. So I brought the ingredients to Oregon to him.
That's so cool.
As well as we filled up a whole truck bed full of sleeping bags and blankets and coats for the homeless down there, because he was running kind of a thrift store, like for the homeless, And so but we've done that like 4 times, and I love that. And I just like to help others because it makes me kind of feel like I'm still working, because they've said that about 3 weeks ago, I had some tests done, and they said I'm unemployable. So I don't know that I'll be going back to work ever, but I like to think that I still kind of am working, because, I deliver. I call it my Meals on Wheels. And I just deliver to anybody that puts in a request for it if they want, and I deliver it, and Jerry and I were blessed to be able to help this couple that's homeless down there in Everett. They put on that they needed some food, and we brought them dinner and snacks and stuff. And then my friend, when we were coming back from chemo Friday, we went by again and brought him some food and everything, and some diabetic supplies. But, I just treat others the way I want to be treated. And I pray all the time, and God just fills me up, and I go out and pour it out. I don't. And when I make somebody else smile, it makes me smile. So it's a win-win. So I don't see anything wrong in anything I'm doing right now, because I'm making people happy, and I'm happy in return. And, I have lots to give. I mean, I've lived here for 50 years, so I got lots of stuff to gift.
Well, Tammy, the one thing that you and I have in common is, as you probably know, I've been feeding the homeless and counseling them for 22 years now. And only in the recent last couple of years, I've quit going to the trap houses, because with the fentanyl elevation of it and stuff, it started becoming too dangerous for me. But to this day, I don't refuse to knock on my door when someone needs to come by and have a meal with their pastor, their friend, that safe, comfortable zone that has been created by God through you and me. So I know the importance of handing a meal to somebody. I get it. Because we're not just handing a meal, we're handing compassion in that same instant. And that is something that so many of these people out there that you and I love and care for, and we don't even know them, and we love them. It's just
that's exactly it.
It's a part of who you and I are today. And that's why today getting you on the show is so significant, because others will pay it forward, Tammy. They're going to hear this story. They're going to see this today, and they're going to go, what a beautiful thing that she is doing. What a wonderful thing. I could do that. I could do that. And that is the significance of recovery, and then taking the gift of what God has imparted within us, and you're taking it and you're paying it forward.
Yeah.
And others will too. I promise you that. I promise you.
Well, if anybody wants to reach out, I'm on Facebook under Tammy Hulse Davis, HULSE/Davis. But it's just important, when you go to AA, they tell you can't keep what you have unless you give it away. I've done what was suggested this time, and that's the only reason why I have results today, is because I surrendered 100%. I never kept it in the back of my mind that someday I could drink it and control it, because I can't. The first sip, it controls me, and everything's out the window. I will cancel everything. I will neglect everything. Everything is out the window the minute I use anything. So today I want to be present, and I want to make a difference in this sometimes cruel world. I want to show people that you can bounce back. I am somebody that was hardcore. I mean, I drank 24/7. I had to have alcohol with me. Oh, I had it right in the shower with me. You know, I mean, that's just insanity and risking so many people's lives. And, you know, today I don't have to do that. I go to bed and pray to God every night. Thank you for letting me stay sober, for helping me to stay sober one more day, because it's so easy to go back. And now it's just, I don't think about it. I mean, once in a great while, yeah, like when it's a hot day and he's out mowing the yard, I'm like, oh man, a cold beer sounds wonderful. But my counselor at my IOP, he taught me something this time that I never learned in all the outpatients and all the treatments I've been in. He said, play the tape all the way through. And it's so true. And I use that for other aspects of my life, not just drug and alcohol addiction, but anything. Play the tape through. Do you need to say something to somebody? Is it cruel? Is it kind? You know, be nice. Always be kind, because there's just so much ugly out there, and you don't have to. I don't have to be that person today. I mean, I would rather be kind, because it's just better. And then
Tammy, that's what I've seen. That's what I've seen with you in recent years. And hey, I was going to ask you, is your husband in the house with you right now, or is he at work?
He is. He's reading the newspaper. He's right across the room from me.
Get him to step over there beside you so we can wave and say
hi. Gary. He wants to say hi to you. Come here. This is so out of the norm for us.
Yeah, this is wonderful. I think that
my friend made me a sweatshirt. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Doctor, that says social butterfly on steroids, and that's me.
Okay, hey, brother, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Real good. I just wanted to say hi to you, and God bless you. And I love what you guys are doing together. And 31 years, congratulations to both of you, because I'm sure that wasn't an easy ride. Both of you still struggling with addiction during some of that time, and look at where you're both at today. And I just wanted to give you a kudos, recognize you for the support you're doing with Tammy and for Tammy. And I know you're a real good man, and God bless you, brother. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, that's great.
You know, Doctor,
take care of yourself.
Yeah, he said, take care of yourself. We actually became kind of famous there when we were both in custody in Snohomish County. He was in he was in work release, and I was in jail, and I wrote the administrator, and we were the first married couple that was able to visit each other while both in custody.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. That's a great story.
Yeah. Well, we have lots of stories, trust me. But you know,
he looks like a real good man. I can see it.
Yeah, he's been a wonderful man, and thank God he stayed beside me when I went through that 3 years of hell with that other person. But you know what? I don't believe I would have done any of that had I not been using alcohol and drugs. I'm a totally different person without that. And today I can actually say I love the person I've become, because that wasn't me. And I totally lost myself when it spiraled out of control when I was with that person. It is, I don't call him a man, because he's not a man. A man wouldn't abuse anybody like that. But, you know, it's just, with determination and will, there's always hope for every single person out there, because I felt so hopeless and helpless, but you don't have to. There's so many resources out there. Like I say, if anybody wants to reach out, I have resources for domestic violence. I have resources for alcohol and drug addiction, whatever it may be. And I'm also a really good listener. So, you know, you don't have to go through any of this alone, because
you're playing it forward. Honey.
Yeah. And that's how we keep it. That's how we keep it, is by sharing it with others. And, you know, people shared their story so freely with me, and stuff stuck with me. You know, it's like, wow, I'm not the only one that feels like nobody likes me or anything like that, you know? Yeah. And now today, my circle's a lot smaller, but it's okay, because I choose quality over quantity today. So it's okay.
Absolutely. Well, listen,
I got the right people in my corner today.
As we get ready to wrap up the show today, I'd like us to close out the show by you having a statement that you want to give to my audience, something that you want to share with them. And then if you wouldn't mind, I'd love you to close us out with a prayer.
Well, the closing statement, I don't know what it would be, other than, if you're stuck, reach out. Don't hold it in, because it's only going to make you sicker. You know, the more you don't ask for some help or reach out for help, because sometimes they'll say the phone weighs 1,000 pounds. It really doesn't. It's just, it's life-changing if you just ask for help. And I was so my ego was so crazy or whatever, or inflamed, that I just thought I don't need help. I can do this all on my own. Well, I proved after so many failed times that I couldn't do it on my own. But with God and all the support that's out there, I know I'm going to be better than okay. It's not going to just be, you're going to be okay. You're going to be better than okay. And you don't ever have to pick up a drink or a drug ever again.
It resonates with you, Tammy. You know, people are going to sense what I'm sensing right now as I'm watching you, and you're truly, truly a servant of the God that we love and serve. And as we're closing out now, I'd love, if you wouldn't mind, to share a prayer to the audience for those that are still struggling.
Heavenly Father, as we are all here gathered today, I ask that you touch any lives of anybody that's struggling with depression, anxiety, addiction, abuse of any kind. Lord, touch these people, draw them closer to you. Let them know that there's hope and there's resources out there for each and every one of us. You never have to go through anything alone. You don't have to numb your problems. You can talk with people and feel these out, feel through these feelings and let them out. And it's so healing. And I ask, Lord, that you just touch these people that don't know you. Draw them to you so that they may accept you as their Lord and Savior. Lord, I am living proof that I can change, and that there's hope for me, and that you are preparing them a place as well. Not just me, but there's so many of us. He's preparing us. We were all children of God, and he's preparing us all a place of beauty and no illness and no disease and no addiction, no pain. So I just ask, Lord, that you please put your loving arms around each and every person out there today that's struggling, and let them know there is hope out there. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Okay, folks. Well, that wraps up another episode today, and I'd like to take this moment to thank each and every one of you for taking your time to catch our show. Now, if you like these shows, I would ask that you would please hit like, share, and subscribe. It's so important to us that we get these messages out, and we understand that these are graphic, almost toxic interviews. But, this is the kind of impact that we feel is needed in order to make sure that people understand the significance of the problems that we are confronted within our own country and around the globe. So I'm going to say at this time that I love you all. God bless you all. Hasta luego, y vaya con Dios, and go Victors.